Well, I guess we're ready for it. What's up, everybody, and welcome back to another Dungeons and Dayjobs. Now, if you're not familiar with the series, this is where we take YouTubers, politicians, people in the world, and we make them a D&D sheet. Now, I will stress this. The D&D sheet is using 5e and is extraordinarily heavily modified. Now, if you want to use any of these characters for an actual game, their stats will still be quirky, but you can do so by adding a 1 before any of the main stats. And then, of course, for the skills, you would divide it by 5 and then round them down. Cool? Cool. Now, considering that we have already done this person's main villain, I think it only fitting that we finally give this wonderful person their own D&D sheet. This is Brandon Herrera. He's a guntuber, gunsmith, and also future congressman. And today, he is going to climb out of the anus of the real world and into the anus of Dungeons and Dragons.
From vlogs to games, every YouTuber's tale. We chart their course with strengths and fails, prove their strength, wisdom, charisma, and more. We score their lives, unlock each door. Gather your friends, let's explore what's real, assigning the stats that their adventures reveal.
Now, once again, starting from the top, we are going to look into his class. Now, what class is Brandon Barbera? Well, considering that he is a gunsmith, as well as a technically undefeated boxer, we're going to give him Artificer, Monk, and Ranger. Now, Ranger for similar reasons to Donut Operator, but I believe that Artificer and Monk are very fitting considering the whole fighter and I'm also going to make guns kind of thing.
Lie to my parents and say I was fucked to death in a gay brothel.
His background, of course, gunsmithing and content creator. But we know content creator, so we're going to go with gunsmithing here. Now, of course, going into his race, as Brandon is human, but also going into the fact that he is an immortal superhero, I'm going to have to say human immortal lich. I just think that a human lich kind of works. Now, as for his alignment, this one is actually quite tough because while Brandon does operate within the law for what I would call good, he is a little bit chaotic and does some things that might be questionable, like building particular firearms that were used in Japanese assassinations that don't go so well on YouTube.
Well, this is why.
So I'm going to give him a chaotic good, though I would also say that he is kind of lawful good. This was a tough one. And as for his level, well, Brandon is 28. Now moving on to his main stats. What are the stats of Brandon Barbera? We've seen his strength.
We'll be back here in a sec. Oh, nice jab. And down he goes.
Yeah, the fact that he knocked a dude out, not with a full hook or anything like that, he knocked him out with a jab. He trained for this, but still, a feat nonetheless. So we are going to give him an 8, a relatively high score. Now, as for his agility, a lot of his LARPing and the goofy stuff that he does in videos, it requires some agility. I'm going to give him a 7 here. Now, this could be arguable, but I do believe that he is slightly more agile than not only the typical person, but also than many of our previous contenders. As for his constitution, unlike a particular operator pastry, Brandon doesn't seem to get sick as often. We also know that he can take quite a few punches and hold himself in a fight. His endurance is quite high. I'm going to give him a 7 here. Moving on to intelligence. Now, obviously, learning gunsmithing and all of the historical knowledge to build his videos requires a certain amount of dedication to learning about those things. To be able to research them and present them in a proper format, that is going to require a degree of intelligence. Not the highest intelligence. We're not talking about somebody who's going to create quantum computing, but I do believe that it requires a certain degree of intelligence that is going to be higher than average. I'm going to go with 7 on this as well. And as for his wisdom, intelligence is understanding that a tomato is a fruit. Wisdom is not putting it in your smoothie. It is the application of said knowledge. Now, how does Brandon stack up here? So you remember that Shinzo Abe thing that I mentioned before?
Definitely not breast milk.
That's going to knock him down from a higher score. But at the same time, I don't think it knocks him down to a 6. So we're going to go with 7. And how charismatic is Brandon? Well, if you have heard him do any public speaking for either firearms rights events, for veterans charities, because I'm not sure if you know this, but he's done that for a long time. Kind of weird for a dude that supposedly hates them. Anyway, as well as the fact that he obviously has a YouTube channel and a very successful podcast with the fellow unsub members. I would say that his charisma is extraordinarily high. He's a very likable guy. Not to the point where he could talk to you and you would immediately undress, but at the same time, not too far off. We're gonna go with a 9. I know, a 9. It's actually really difficult to get a 9 on one of these. So, bravo. Now, moving on to the skills. As always, we are going to run through these very quickly. Now, remember that within the skill tree, it is between 1 and 100. Starting off with animal handling. Brandon does own a dog, or at least he did. I saw it on Twitter. It should still be alive. Please tell me it's still alive, Brandon. We're going to give you a 70 here. Remember, this is between 1 and 100 on this scale. Now for politics. The man's running for Congress. He's pretty damn political. Now, for politics, as always, it is not whether or not he is extraordinarily right or left or any of that. No, it is the integration of his politics into the world and how that is going to affect him, considering that the man literally told the ATF to essentially eat a dick to their face.
How the hell can repealing a ban on something require a literal act of Congress, yet the ban itself did not require a bill to go before Congress in the first place?
And is running for Congress. We're going to go with a 90 here. Going on to athletics, I'm going to give him a roundabout score here. I think that it's pretty damn good. It's well above the average, but it's also not peak human performance. He is not going to be the next track star, nor is he going to be the greatest swimmer or power lifter in the world. 75. Now moving on to deception. I'm going to score him similarly to how I scored Donut, to be honest. 15. He has the capacity to lie. I don't believe that he does or does often, but everybody's got the capacity, so we're going to give him a 15. I don't believe that he lies often or in any meaningful way. And everybody's favorite score. How autistic is Brandon Herrera?
Do you actually believe the Queen died of natural causes?
I'm going to say that he is autistic enough to have something that he loves to hyperfixate on, while simultaneously not being really weird, stimming in the corner like I do. We're going to give him a 65. Intimidation. He's about as intimidating as a golden retriever, so yes, he can bite, but at the same time, 65. Now, investigation. Considering that this man lives on the internet for his career, I'm going to give him a very good score on this. Not only for the fact that he is very, very knowledgeable, so he has to use his investigation skills to be able to see these things, but also because within his world of politics, he obviously has to be able to look into things, see whether they're factual, and then talk to Nick and say, hey, Nick, you want a community note Ernie again? And then, you know, repeating the cycle. So we're going to go with a 73 here. Now, moving on to his performance. Once again, like many YouTubers, content creators, all of that, we're going to give him a pretty high score here. His entire channel is a performance. I think he performed very well during the live shows. If you haven't checked out pepperbox.tv, make sure to do it. This isn't a sponsor. I just genuinely want to support the motherfucker. So you're getting a 79. Watch the unsub live kind of docuseries. It's really, really, really good. Moving on to persuasion. How persuasive do we think that Brandon Herrera is? Well, persuasive enough to get a large group of people to vote for him for Congress, as well as subscribe to his YouTube channels and just generally support the guy. I'm going to give him a relatively good score. Not the greatest, but I'm going to give him a 68. Yeah, 68. That seems fair. Now, going on to religion. I don't see him as a particularly religious person, nor do I see him as a particularly anti-religious person. I believe that he believes in the fundamentals of the freedom of religion. But once again, don't see him as somebody who actually goes to church every morning. Could be wrong on it, but at the same time, 50. I'm sure he believes in God. Don't believe that he's, out there preaching the good word on the side of the street, calling me a heathen because I have fucking pagan tattoos. Now, as for stealth, this one was a little tough to actually get. Now, the reason for that is because Brandon hasn't really given us the potential to see him being truly stealthful. I do believe he has the capacity. Don't believe that he's necessarily going to be the best at it. I'm going to give him a 35, but let me know what you think in the comments below. I could be wrong on this one. And as for survival, while many YouTubers end up living in lofty palaces with a bunch of cars and useless shit, gun-tubers are a different breed and technically have a bit more survival instinct than others. Their awareness is higher, their ability to use and maintain weaponry is a bit higher, and also they typically know how to hunt, which we have seen with Brandon.
Passed the blood knife over and proceeded to take care of business.
So I'm going to give him a 69. Nice. Now moving on to Brandon's spells. What spells does Brandon use on his day-to-day while battling the evil that is Ernie Gonzalez? Well, we're going to start off with one that Donut also shares, and that is called the Ratio.
Nice.
This, of course, being the ability to post something on Twitter under a stupid tweet and then be able to get more likes and retweets than that asshat. The next spell, of course, being that he is immortal, is called Immortala Sealing Fanis. If you don't get that joke, I am so sorry. And, of course, we have a physical attack that Brandon is able to use, and that being the jab.
We'll be back here in a sec. Oh, nice jab.
Enough said, really. Now moving on to proficiencies and languages. Now, what languages does Brandon speak?
Da gibt's es so frisch wie mein alter Onkel Gustav. Wann haben Sie denn diesen Berg bestiegen? Gestern Nacht?
Well, of course he's going to speak Common. But as an Artificer, I'm also going to say that he speaks Dwarven and Draconic. I think that those two work quite well for his particular duties. And then, of course, he speaks proper Twitternese, or Twatternese, or Xyz, if you want to call it X, or whatever fucking reason. Fuck you, Elon. And what equipment would Brandon be taking into battle? Well, many AKs. Many guns in general, but we're going to go with AKs because he is the AK guy. AK Jesus, if you will. He is also going to be taking in, at this point in time, an unfinished AK-50. You're not getting it. I don't care that the video comes out this Friday. You're not getting it. He is also going to carry in a sponsorship from SDI. And Brandon, of course, would be lost without White Claws and his iPhone. And now, of course, we have to go into Brandon's physical features. Well, starting off with how tall is he? Well, he is 5'10". According to the internet, he is 4'10", but he's 5'10". And by the way, don't give me shit. You said your heights in the podcast. Don't give me crap.
First off, fuck everyone. I'm 5'11". I'm the king of the manlets. Like, come on.
You're that 1 inch too short.
Like, you fucking bitches.
As for his hair, He has luscious brown hair, some of the best hair, and definitely will have the best hair in Congress once he gets there. He, of course, has chocolate eyes and fantastic facial hair. The beard game is on point. And moving on to his personality traits. Brandon is inventive as a gun tuber, YouTuber in general. He is humorous because you kind of have to be in this day and age, otherwise you just get sad.
This little piggy went to the fucking morgue.
He is knowledgeable, not only about history, firearms, but also law, and autistic. It is a personality trait. You can't convince me otherwise. What are the ideals of Brandon Herrera? Now, this is especially important considering that not only are we talking about a YouTuber, but somebody who is going to represent Texas in Congress. And those would be liberty, free speech, gun rights, ass, and learning from history. And as for his relationships, he's got his unsub crew, his nephew, John, that's Donut's son. If you didn't know, Brandon is one of his retarded uncles. And, of course, all of his past tense selves. Once again, if you do not get that joke, I am so sorry. Now, as for Brandon Herrera's flaws, I, of course, originally put, wear AK-50. As that video is on its way. He has announced it on Twitter. It's already been leaked, obviously, in the Turkey Tom videos and all of that. But it is still the flaw that I had created. So what other flaws does Brandon have? There are people who say they don't like the sponsorships he uses. There are people that say that, you know, your hair is not long enough, or maybe you use too much mousse. I don't know. The biggest flaw in my fucking book, Brandon, is that you're not in Congress yet. Which technically isn't your fault, but at the same time, we expect better. So what do you think about Brandon Herrera's stat sheet? Do you think I hit the nail on the head? Do you think I got him right? And do you think I got him wrong? And as always, I upload these sheets to Twitter so you can use them, and in my personal Discord, as well as a blank one so you can make your own anytime I do these, and then we can compare results. With that being said, it is currently 4:33, so I'm going to go make some delicious Cajun chicken. It will be baller. I will upload a picture onto my Twitter. And also, yes, you bullied me into having an Instagram. I guess it'll go on there too. Bye.
No sword will you take. Righteous punishment, so artistic, you know he is tactical.